Welcome back to another edition of
Journey of Coffee.
And today we're joined by
Kuma Coffee.
Which we've both had a number of times. I feel like they sell it at Faro a lot.
That's where I got that.
That's where I bought this, yeah. Thank you for the nice gift.
You're welcome.
This kind of got me thinking about, packaging, which I think we're both kind of packaging nerds on to see if it's done right, if it looks good. But the worst part about this bag,
I was gonna say, I feel like you can already guess how we feel about this bag.
is that it's not resealable. Like many of the kind of smaller roasters in some ways, not the Kuma small, it lacks a sealing, a resealable top to it, which is disappointing.
Yeah, and it seems from the back that there's maybe tape on it originally, was there?
Yeah.
And that never works a second time. You can maybe close it the second time, but the tape loses its stickiness.
Yeah. Because if you think about other bags of coffee, you brought some coffee.
Yeah.
Even this is Sean Freeman. Shout out, thank you. This is from the Grizzler, and you'll notice that you can cut this and actually use the sort of Ziploc seal inside.
This one has that as well.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
The DeMello, which I'm quite excited by. So really, if you're thinking about how you're going to store your coffee, the easiest thing is when roasters give you their own version of how to do that, which is this resealable package.
Yeah, and often if you get this shape of coffee, it has kind of like the long twist tie.
Yep.
So you can fold it over and twist it.
Yeah.
Just really anything.
Because the reality of storing your coffee, and it's a question that people have asked us, is like, how do you store your coffee?
Yeah.
Is that if it comes like this in this bag, I'd say 90% of the time, I leave it in this bag.
Yeah, and it also has the off-gassing little,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, doohickey?
The one-way valve.
One-way valve.
Especially because the key with roasting coffee is that it will basically off-gas or degas as it's going, right? So if you have locally roasted coffee that's fresh, that coffee for the first couple days is going to be letting a lot of gas go. And so all of these companies now put one-way valves on their coffee bags, and it allows that to, degas. Allows that to come in, but no air to come back in the meantime while the gas is leaving. So,
Which is why these ones with the Ziploc are better, because then it is actually only one way.
Yeah.
Whereas this.
Well, this is now two-way, no matter what, because of the giant package I cut off the top. The challenge being, this coffee, the first couple of days, you're not going to want to have it. It's it's coming back down. It's letting all the gas off it. So really, any locally roasted coffee, if it's been roasted the day before you buy that package, give it a couple days. Don't open it right away. Give it 3, 4, 5 days before you actually open that. And then really, you're gonna wanna drink this bag in probably 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go probably any longer than 2 weeks. Again, if you have it, drink it. You're just gonna lose some of the tasting notes. You'll lose a bit of that freshness in the cup.
Yeah.
You may, at the end of that 2 weeks, start to have some of that stale coffee flavor.
Which, I mean, in reality, a lot of kind of standard coffee drinkers, myself included, might not notice from the beginning of a bag to, say, 2.5 weeks later.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going like stale, where you smell it and you think, that's stale.
Yeah.
Like, it's a moderately slow process.
Yeah, it's definitely a moderately slow process, and it really, we've all had coffee at the end of that 2 week, sometimes 3 week, depending on how many bags you're opening.
Yeah.
For me, a 3/4 pound bag is not going to last 2 weeks.
No.
I usually used 50 grams a day to make a pot, roughly, so I'm not too worried about that, but I do get worried when companies don't have a zip seal to it or don't have even the fold over.
Yeah.
So for me, I will store my coffee in a canister like this, because there are 4 very bad things for coffee that affect the flavor and sort of freshness of coffee.
There are. Light.
Really bad.
Really bad.
Heat. Really bad.
Moisture.
Also bad.
Oh no. Heat. Air. Air.
Welcome to 4 bad things about coffee are...
Heat, moisture, air, and light.
There you go.
Yes.
So this canister is specifically designed around that. So it's black, so it's not going to let any light in. You're going to store it in a cool place.
Yeah. Like not above your stove, not right beside something that produces lots of heat.
No. And then the best part is it actually has a one-way valve on it. So this, you can hear that, will actually allow the gas out. So if you bought fresh coffee and you did open it after a couple of days, it's still going to let a bit of gas off. But this is going to make sure that you don't get any more air in, and it vacuum pushes out, so it reduces the amount of air in here. So simple, you know, press the thing, it's tight, I love it. Bag of coffee, there you go.
Beautiful.
So to me, if you are going to be drinking that coffee relatively quickly, it does not have a seal on it, I'm going to throw it in this canister and then allow kind of a one-way valve. So this is what I would think, and you can buy these on Amazon. This is called Coffee Vac. I think it was about 20 bucks. Super worthwhile in my opinion to store your coffee. You, on the other hand,
don't use a vacuum sealed container. So typically I will store it in its bag, and I use a mason jar. Oh, would you like me to pour it in there?
feel free.
This is gonna Oh
Not bad.
no. So, I mean, obviously the first thing you'll notice is
Light.
the light. I typically have a lid with mine, so that helps with the air. It also, if I am not drinking it every day, I'm also not opening it every day, which means that if there is some gas that needs to come out, it's not coming out.
Yeah.
I store mine in a cupboard, so I'm okay with it being in glass because it's kept in a closed cupboard that the only thing that's in there is my coffee and my tea. So it gets opened only for that purpose, so I feel okay about it. I don't know if it's the best option, but it's the option that I use, and now I'm feeling ashamed to buy it.
I think for
My
ease,
coffee,
if you
canister.
need to store your coffee in something,
Yeah.
a mason jar, because we all have them these days because everyone loves drinking it in mason jars, is probably a decent option.
Yeah, and like my kind of, I want to say higher end coffee, like that bag that we just removed from the table, I'm gonna keep that in the bag.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put it in the mason jar, but this is kind of like my everyday, my house coffee, you could say. I would keep it in my mason jar. But one question I have for you, do you store it in the refrigerator and or the freezer?
I do not. I never have. I don't think, maybe when I was 18 I would store my coffee somehow, but really I didn't really drink a lot of coffee, so I feel like that was the last time you'd buy like a Folgers and you'd throw it in the fridge. The biggest challenge there, again, is coffee is porous.
Yes.
So anything you have in your fridge or freezer is really going to affect the flavor of that coffee.
Yeah, especially if not kept in like a sealed container. Yeah, and I mean there's oils in coffee as well, which don't freeze super well.
Like all oils.
Like all oils.
So you definitely tend to create moisture in the fridge. I mean, it's a more of a humid environment than probably most people's counters or cupboards for sure. And then freezer. I mean, it's the same thing. We both make a lot of bread. You can throw bread in the freezer and bring it out, and it's pretty decent, but it obviously has picked up some kind of condensation moisture as it's gone through that process, and so it does affect the flavor. I mean, it's definitely not as good as, say, you went to the bakery and got that. So if you're going to throw your coffee in the freezer, you probably don't drink a lot of coffee, so you should drink more coffee.
Good for you and your self-control.
Yeah, good for you. And then if not, I would probably vacuum seal it just to really help. I wouldn't vacuum seal in the fridge or in a cupboard because again, if you vacuum seal it too tight, the gases have nowhere to go and then will tend to puff up your vacuum sealed bag and maybe cause potential problems that way. It's the same thing about grinding.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I bought a coffee ground in a bag.
I do.
When was it?
It was last year when we had to stay at an Airbnb and there was no grinder.
That is true.
And you have to explain it to the person at the wonderful coffee roaster that I don't do this every day. These are severe circumstances.
Yeah, so if you're traveling, I'm just thinking also in Berlin, I picked up a bag and
Right.
had it ground
Yeah.
because I bought my little espresso maker with
Yeah.
me, so I needed some coffee ground. So typically though, you are not gonna wanna have that and then have it over a week or 2 weeks like you would with whole beans. You know, within probably 15, 20, 30 minutes, that coffee is already breaking down.
Yeah.
So even if you grind your coffee at night to have coffee in the morning, your flavor is going to be affected. Now, that's not to say, you know, don't slow down your process and have to wake up and grind your coffee. But no matter what, the second you start grinding that coffee, it starts degrading a lot faster.
I grind my coffee at night before going to the gym. Purely because I don't think my husband wants a grinder going off at 5 a.m.
You'd probably love that alarm, the coffee alarm. So if there's anything I think we could tell you about, it's really find a bag, look for bags that have that Ziploc storage.
Yeah.
It's got to have a valve on it. And then at the end of the day,
And look at roast dates,
yeah.
if possible. I know a lot of, say, grocery store coffee doesn't have a roast date on it, which will be something that we'll talk about at a later time.
Yeah.
But try and look for the date. Try and pick the latest roast date, closest to today's date.
How many times can you say date?
I was trying to think of more, but I think I'm done.
Yeah. So buy your fresh coffee, buy your locally roasted coffee, drink it within a couple of weeks of opening that package, grind it fresh every day if you can for your coffee. And if you aren't able to store it in the package, a cool, dark, dry place, preferably in a canister with a one-way valve.
Yeah. And do I throw out my stale coffee after 2 weeks?
No.
Okay, great.
No,
What should I do
just-
with it instead?
Just drink it.
Yeah. Or do something like make cold brew.
Make cold brew with it, grind it up and bake with it.
Yeah.
Put some coffee powder in some coffee cake.
Smoothies. Add it to your smoothie.
Smoothies. Make a coffee, chill the coffee and add it, and then have like a cold brew smoothie.
Yeah.
There's definitely lots of ways to make sure that you don't throw it out, and we all know that especially locally roasted coffees are not cheap. So save yourself a few bucks, don't waste it, don't throw it out. Enjoy it the best you can. Just remember that you're probably, like anything, going to lose a little bit of that freshness from day one. Until next time, stay caffeinated.